I had a thing about cows getting loose. It caused a lot of anxiety in me because here I was, a kid from the suburbs trying to learn to farm, and the cows were always getting out. I didn't understand fencing, and I just didn't get it. I know a lot more about it now, and I can look back on it and even see a lot of humor. But back then, I couldn't see it. I'd get really caught up in it. Lots of anxiety because, they would just, I had a whole season's worth of, let's say, broccoli, a brassica family planted. The cows would get into the garden, eat my entire crop, or break into the neighbor's garden. It just somehow really got me going. And so there was this one time where I came across a cow, and it was actually a steer, and just out at the fencing. There was a break in the fence, and the cow was just chewing, eating grass, enjoying life. There was a beautiful patch of grass. It hadn't been touched on the other side of the fence. It was just pretty harmless. One break in the fence, a happy cow eating fresh grass just across the driveway. Really nothing wrong. And then the other cows were inside the fence and they were happy too. They didn't even realize that the one had broken out. And so I approached the situation and my energy just went up. I had this anxiety. I thought, oh no, I've got to get the cow back in the fence. And, I was not in the present moment. I was forward into some sort of future that I was imagining where it was a terrible situation and all these things would go wrong. And, so I approached the cow with my energy up like that. And of course, the cow spooks and runs away from that up energy like that. And when the cow runs away, the other cows in the fencing realized, wait a second. And they started freaking out and noticing there was another cow on the other side of the fencing and just noticing there was something going on. And they broke through the fence. Now I have a bunch of cows outside of the fence and a bunch of breaks in the fence, and none of them are happy and calm. And I think about it, and it's like, okay, in that situation, I'm suddenly in a situation where I'm wishing I had my old problem, which wasn't even a problem, but that I thought was a problem. The thing I thought was a problem, now with these frantic cows all outside of the fencing, running around, multiple breaks in the fence, now that old problem doesn't seem like a problem at all. And so it's an interesting metaphor, that one. I think there's a lot in it, and I think back on it a lot. It's really just right because, this often what we see as a problem isn't really actually a problem. What I had a happy cow on fresh grass and other happy cows in another pasture, and one little thing to patch in the fencing. If I had just kind of been with that present moment, I could have worked with it and just realized it wasn't a problem at all. In trying to solve the problem, I created chaotic energy because I was trying to solve that problem from a state of fear, and that's always chaotic energy. And it actually was a self-fulfilling prophecy. I actually created the very thing I was afraid of. The very thing I was imagining in the future. There's so much to that. And so what is this right now? If you just think on any problem that you have, what is that problem? And is it really a problem? Is there anything about it that is actually serving you, that is actually possibly, it could be something about timing. Is it actually maybe some divine timing, some sort of, often things work out in ways in the larger picture that we don't even realize because we're trying to control the smaller picture. And, what is it pointing to? I mean, in terms of this, that cow is pointing to the fact that why is there a patch of grass over here that you're mowing when we could be eating this? Because actually at that time I was spending all this effort mowing on the other side of the driveway when I could have just fenced in the driveway too, and they could have enjoyed the grass. I would have less work. Everybody's happy. Maybe cow is pointing that out to me. Maybe the cow is giving me a gift of this amazing metaphor that I'm sharing with you. So before we spook the cows, ask, is this serving me in some way? Is this even a problem? Is there a way I can work with this without fear energy, without bringing more chaos into the situation? Is there a way I can just be with it, breathe? I find often I'm holding my breath and I'm not even breathing. When you think about breathing, we have roughly on average 20,000 breaths a day that we take. And this is incredible. If each breath was considered an opportunity, if you think about it this way, feel into the idea that in a situation like if I was saving a puppy's life from getting hit from a car, running out into the road, picking the puppy up, and then running across the road just before the car whizzed by, that's a certain breath that I need for that. I need a lot of breath for that, and a certain type of breathing for that moment. Or if I'm in a ball game and there's a heated moment in that ball game, there's a certain breathing that's really really effective in that situation and just right for that situation. But that same breathing of saving a puppy from getting hit doesn't really work if I'm taking a walk down a dirt road and nothing really is happening and it's a beautiful day and I'm observing flowers and listening to the birds and hearing the brook run alongside the road. That breath would be completely out of place in that situation. So each situation, and these were extremes, each situation, there's so many varieties of breathing. Each situation has its own unique type of breathing that's just right for it. And so throughout the day, we have 20,000 opportunities to find the breathing, to breathe with that moment. I heard it referred to, I wish I could remember who said this, but if I remember, I can't remember, but they said that they referred to it as quivers, as each breath is an arrow, and you have 20,000 arrows in a day, and each one is a unique type of arrow for a unique task. And which one are you going to pull out and use? Which type of breath do you need for this situation? That's interesting. And so if I had been in that moment in a practice of checking in with what kind of breathing, or just realizing that I was even breathing, often that's all it takes is just to acknowledge, because we're always breathing to some extent, and just checking in with just realizing that we're breathing often will just bring enough awareness around breathing itself, and that will help it to naturally find the style and version that is best for the situation. And so if I had actually just been with that breathing in that moment when I realized the cow was out, I might have actually found a steadier breath and not panicked and not created the situation that I ended up, the real problem, and ended up wishing for the old problem, which wasn't even a problem at all. I would have seen the gift of that moment. So breathing, if you find the right breaths for the task, it actually ends up being really delicious, I would say. Breathing actually ends up feeling really good. It only doesn't feel quite right if you have the wrong breathing for the wrong moment, as in like you're in a frantic breath, but there's in truth not really a problem. Or you're in an up high energy breath and it's a pretty relaxed moment. That's when it doesn't quite work. But if you have the right breathing for the right moments throughout the day, it's luxurious. It's just like this immediate pleasure that's available all the time because we're breathing anyway. And if each breath actually was enjoyable, then that's 20,000 enjoyments like throughout the day that's completely free, available, and just happening. All you have to do is get with it. So I've heard this idea that, I think it's a famous saying, again, I don't know who said this, but before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. There's a lot of truth to that. I think after enlightenment, carrying wood and chopping water is going to feel different. But you're still carrying wood and chopping water. Still needs to get done. But it's maybe enjoyable. And the whole experience around it, one of the differences might be that you're breathing exactly the style of breath that's just right for the task as you're carrying wood, carrying water, chopping wood. You can't really chop water, although that's an interesting exercise. A lot of traditions of martial arts will have you do something akin to chopping water or using water to teach you about the just right biomechanics, all mechanics of the body have a just right quiver, you could say, for the task. And so if you're just kind of carrying wood, chopping wood, carrying water, and you're bringing out the quiver of the right style of breath, the right biomechanics, you're getting with the task in just the right way, just the way, and you're with the task fully, it's blissful. You can be in the middle of a true emergency, and actually you can feel the pain of what is going on, but you can also feel the pleasure of working toward the task at hand fully in just the style needed, just the style of breath, just the right biomechanics, just the right energy, just the right flow, just the right connection with the others around you who are working on that task too. This is all to say that if I just stopped and breathed, I might have noticed it wasn't a problem at all.